Welcome to the Business Vitality Podcast. My name is Cantey. I am the host and an executive coach. I work with teams, individuals, and leaders to help create measured leadership change. We do that using practical applications, and our clients are creating 100% measured results as seen by those around them. Not necessarily what I think or what they think, but what the other people are seeing. And they are being recognized for the hard work that they're doing. If you're interested in learning more about some of the work that we're doing, you can learn more at catherinecantey.com. I would love for you to subscribe to this show, to Business Vitality. This is my way to continue to pay it forward and share business best practices. Stay tuned and listen to the interview. Thanks for being here. Kevin Landers, you are the president of Rocketwise, found on the web at rocketwise.com. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for the invite, and you make that sound so official and president sounds, yeah. Anyway, thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to it.
I appreciate you being here, and you are official. You've been doing this for quite some time, and I would love it if you could, Kevin, at a high level. Can you talk a little bit about what Rocketwise does?
Sure. So I guess at the highest level, and possibly the easiest way to kind of frame it, we're basically the IT department for our clients, and so our clients, most of them do not have IT people on staff, and so it's a critical aspect of any organization is their IT department. And so most of those clients lean on us to fill those roles, doing the things that internal staff would do, but also taking care of the things that an internal staff would outsource anyway to another partner. So we fill that role. We do have clients that have internal staff already. And in that role, we partner with them, become a part of their IT department, and kind of fill in the gaps where maybe they don't have the time or the expertise or possibly even the desire to do some of the things that they, leverage our team to solve for them. So virtual IT department for an organization, specifically equipment dealerships, such as construction equipment, ag dealerships, so forth.
Okay. I told you earlier, we were kind of chatting before that I've spent a number of years in ag and was fortunate enough to work with Farm Credit. And they're, one of the best kept resources that are, around the country. And it sounds like you might be there with us or with Farm Credit because, you're the technology provider for these dealerships. Is that right? Or tell me a little bit more about your clients.
Yeah. So we are. So we're the we fill multiple roles for them, and that's anything from the the everyday firefighting, so to speak, help desk staff. So we're taking care of the reactive issues they're having. Someone can't print, someone can't access documents, or some kind of service or computer goes dead on them, all the day-to-day things that come your way when you have people using technology. And so we fill that tactical role, if you will, and take care of all that. But then we also fill a role of dealing with all the other vendors or partners that play a part in a dealership. That could be anything from their internet providers, their printing companies that provide their copiers. It could be their telephone provider. Could also be, other companies that are specific to their industry. In most cases, even the OEMs or the manufacturers that these dealers represent. In most cases, we're interacting with them on a daily basis for, again, those tactical IT needs or vendor management, if you want to call it that, in terms of working with those outside providers. But then more importantly, we're filling that strategic role. Think of it, we always actually tell our clients to think of it as a virtual chief information officer. Basically, it's that aspect of their team where we really need to dig into strategy to identify where's their slippage? Where are we as an organization not really firing all cylinders or don't really have traction? And is there a way to leverage technology to address some of those or partial portions of those issues? Are there ways to be more efficient? Are there ways where we're just doing things the old way that we've been doing it for 60, 70, 80 years? Some of these organizations have been around a long time, right? Especially on the ag side. And you've got generations of family members, as the company gets handed from one generation to another, and a lot of the older processes come along with that. And so we look at how can we drive efficiency? How can we take their business processes and bring them into, I hate to say 21st century, but but that may be the case, but also more importantly, like, where are we headed? Like, we're all on this bus, right? And the question is, when you usually get on a bus, you have a good idea of where you're headed. You're not just riding it to ride it. And so as a company, where are we headed? What's our mission? What's our vision? What are our goals? Like, are we looking to just stay where we're at? Hopefully not. Hopefully we're looking to grow, and maybe that's, adding new products and services to our portfolio that we can better serve our clients and our customers. Perhaps it's mergers and acquisitions. Maybe it's actual growth, looking to acquire other organizations and bring them into the fold, or to expand just by opening, new locations and new territories, and, expand our coverage so that we can reach more folks. And so all of that being said, there's always a technology aspect that needs to be at play in that. Not that it's always the most important, but if it's planned right and the IT and technology team are involved, it certainly can help things go smoothly and hopefully faster. So I think I answered your question.
You did a great job. No, you did a great job. It was perfect. And for clarification, OEM, for those of us not in your world, operating?
Sure. Equipment management? Original equipment manufacturer. So okay. If you were a John Deere dealership, then your primary OEM or manufacturer you represent is John Deere. Okay. But then you have a lot of other dealers that, have a variety of lines of manufacturers that they represent. So in some cases, we're actually dealing with those manufacturers to help, work out some process issues or technical issues for the client, for the dealer.
Perfect. I lived in a world of banking acronyms. I could tell an entire story from front to end with nothing but acronyms. So I have to think about the folks that aren't familiar with some of the acronyms. And so I like to bring it up. And I love what you talked about as far as there's so many different moving pieces that are going on within the dealerships, from just the printing and from the internet, just internet providers alone right now, because wherever you're going to have these dealers, you probably are going to run across some gaps in broadband that's out there. Right. And then you're probably going to be on the forefront to represent these folks, to let them know what services are available for them. Just printing the checks and printing the invoices, and printing is expensive. And I love to support my timber industry friends. So printing is very important, but if there's ways to negotiate that, those prices, that's what that virtual CIO does. And bringing you in earlier into the game helps you probably leverage a lot of these connections that you bring to a table. And I love what you talked about strategy. I don't know if you want to talk about that VIO, virtual
CIO. And so another acronym, sorry, I think I'd explained that one, but virtual chief information officer. Some organizations have a chief technical officer. Ultimately, it's the role within your organization that at the end of the day, the buck kind of stops there with regards to technology and how technology plays a role in the organization. So strategy is a key part. And so just taking your example of the printing, there is the tactical side of it. user can't print, there's downtime. How do we get them to printing again quicker? How do we avoid Susie spending 15 minutes fighting with the printer as it spits out, a ream of paper of gibberish, and then walking down the hall to complain to John for 5 minutes, and then the two of them walking back in her office and spending another 30 minutes trying to figure it out and fix it and all that, and fighting that technology. So our approach from the tactical side there is to empower that user, empower that staff member so that they don't have to mess around with it 15 minutes. They pick up the phone, they reach out to our team and the IT department, and that's how we express ourselves or explain ourselves and try to get that idea into the minds of everyone there. We're not a vendor. We're yes, we're a partner, but more importantly, we're a part of the organization. We are your IT department. But empower them so that they can get back to work faster, or we can identify a workaround faster so that they're not wasting all that time. But then also on the strategy side, yes, we are working with those vendors to help them get the best quotes, to get the best pricing, because we've done this for, as you indicated earlier when we first started, 24 years. So we've talked to one or two printing companies in the past, right? So we kind of know how that world works. Same with internet services, telephone services. We get it. We've talked our fair share. But so we can negotiate that and help the client from a consultative approach to help them identify what makes the ideal print partner for us as a dealer. Here are the questions we should ask. Here's why we're asking those. Here's what those questions mean and what the right answers are and the wrong answers are. And let's just interview them, go through the list and, whittle it down, have some discussions, identify the winner, who's the best fit for us. So we are doing that, but also from the strategy side, if let's say you're in an M&A mode or expansion mode, you're bringing on a new location. Okay, well, there's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes there that often isn't thought of or considered until you're in the thick of it and you realize, hey, who ordered the printers? Yeah. When are they coming? When are they going to install it? Who ordered the internet service? When's that supposed to happen? And that can really hurt you, especially in the midst of construction, where you've got contractors who have schedules they have to meet, and you can throw a wrench in their works, and it can have a ripple effect. So it's even working to identify what do we need in those areas and trying to get those things all lined up from them from a project management kind of approach. But so yeah, just print alone wouldn't have been normally. Probably wouldn't have been one I would have picked to use as examples, but but there you go. Printing, there's various aspects of it, that if you don't have it under control, you can cause disruption to a company, and that's costly, right? Every minute you're down is a minute of revenue opportunity that you're not seeing. So sorry, yeah. I feel like I went down a rabbit hole there, but no. But
I think we can personally relate with the story and the story of, Susie's trying to print something off and then she gets frustrated and then she goes down and disrupts somebody else's day. And before you know it, it's 45 minutes when we could have just called Rocketwise and, had a plan ahead of time. And I'm guessing this is probably a very scalable approach. And maybe that's a way that separates you from your competition, scalable in the sense that, it's not a full-time IT person, but you're there when somebody needs you. And is that the right thought?
You're on the right. We're on the same. We're on the right bus. So yeah. In a lot of ways, it is scalable. First of all, we have to design the way we do service so that it can be consistent. Mm-hmm. So that there's consistency with the client that they can depend on, but also there's consistency that our team can really buy into and lean on, so that, when things do go off track, we get in a situation where there's, it's outside of the norm. we have a place to start, and we can check all the boxes, so to speak, on things. So there's consistency. Consistency is one of the foundations of scalability. If you don't have a consistent process, then you can't scale it. And if you don't have a process, you can't scale without a process, right? So just having that stuff documented, even if it's a manual process. So yes, there's a great deal of scalability in the way that we do things. Yeah, the reality is we aren't sitting, in there, if you had a real IT team, you had someone who was salaried and they're sitting in their office. Yeah, you have a warm body sitting in a seat, potentially 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Perhaps we're not doing that, but we are doing a lot of variety of things in the background. And because of our processes and because of the way we try to be consistent and streamline things, at the end of the day, you get more bang for your buck when it comes down to it from a finance way of looking at it, because you're, for the fraction of what you would pay that warm body to sit in a seat 40 hours a week, plus payroll and vacation, etc. You're getting a team of multiple people who are doing a variety of different things at the same time. So yeah, it's scalable, and it's cost effective, but more importantly, it gets results, because we for a peek behind the curtain every week, our operations team meets for an hour and a half on Fridays from 8 to 9:30 at minimum. And we go through a process called EOS, or traction. And so it's our level 10 meeting. And part of that is identifying issues that came up throughout the week, where we, not necessarily an issue in that something broke for a client or there's a problem with a client, but looking for, hey, I noticed this, whatever this is, I think there's room to be more efficient here. I think there's room to improve things for this client. And by having that dedicated time as a team to kind of dive into that and brainstorm those things, and then from that, set aside some actionable steps and tasks that we can take and hold each other accountable to implement that. That goes a long way. And that's a lot. That's more than most internal IT teams get, because most IT, and I've been there, so I can speak from experience, 20 plus years in this world of IT. Most people are just running around putting fires out, and they're plugging the dam, and they're hoping that the plug they just put in will hold long enough that everybody can get back to work, the pressure gets off their back, and they can go plug the other hole that just popped up, or the 20 that are on their list. And so they hardly ever get to stop and actually think strategically and how can we improve things. Whereas we as a team, we're able to spend that time every week. And in doing so, if we can implement one thing for one dealer, the nice thing about scalability is most likely all the other dealers are going to benefit from that implementation. Because if it's something that we can just implement, that there's no need for a project, there's no need for a bunch of man hours into, and there are no other associated costs, a lot of that stuff gets implemented in the background and maybe never gets mentioned, and it improves things for everyone. And sometimes they get implemented and we explain to clients and announce those changes for them, and they see the benefits immediately. But anyway, that's just from the power of having a process, especially like I mentioned, EOS or traction, and then following that process, like our level 10 meetings, and being able to implement things at scale across multiple clients, and them all seeing the benefit. And the fact that our client environments are consistent to the way that we build and have modeled those things, we know that we can implement those changes in that consistent environment and see the benefit of that across the board. Whereas if we weren't consistent, and every client was completely different, not to say that they're identical, there are differences among them, but because the core things are consistent, because of our design around that, we can have that big impact. And so anyway, I am rambling at this point and going down a rabbit hole. Catherine.
I think you're doing.
But there's
I
power
think
and scalability. I mean, there's power in process, procedures, and systems, and and if you can just build around that, you can accomplish so much more than just throwing 40 hours of man hours at a situation week in, week out. So
there's a lot of value in what you're saying. You are responding to what the market is asking for. You're providing these virtual CIOs. We don't have time to get into it today, but what you're talking about, this level 10 and EOS solution, I have personally seen that stuff work. And what you're doing is you're pulling your leadership team and your operation team in to learn about best practices and how do we make things better going forward. So in my opinion, you're different than the competition in the sense that you're not just responding to the squeaky wheel, but you're sitting down as a team once a week on Fridays at 8 a.m. to really dig into it to figure out how do we make it better. And your overall strategy and thought process of how you're evaluating these opportunities is what I like to call them, not necessarily challenges, but opportunities is what makes what you're doing work. And if you weren't doing this, you wouldn't be around for 24 years. So I think you provide a lot of value in that. I want to ask you kind of a new question. I would love to hear, what is maybe one of your favorite client success stories that you're particularly proud of? Can you kind of talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, certainly can. Trying to make sure that I avoid all of the acronyms and abbreviations. So we have strategy meetings quarterly with our clients. So again, part of it is sitting at the table as a VCIO and getting a picture of what transpired across the company as a whole, not just IT, our little world, but as a whole in the last 90 days. Sometimes we meet more than that, but at least what happened in the last 90 days. What do we think is going to be going on in the next 90 days? What does the next 90 days look like? And actually, we run these meetings using the level 10 framework from EOS. Not all of our clients know level 10 and have a clue what EOS is, but we run that entire meeting around that structure. And so we're strategically looking forward and backward, and casting out as far as we can. And I share all that to say that in one of those meetings, a client shared that they had a process that wasn't working very well for them. On the service side of their dealership, their manufacturer, their OEM, has a system that will pull issues for the equipment out in the field. So a tractor, excavator, bulldozer, whatever it might be. And it pulls that information remotely from these devices. That's a whole other story about the technology that's out there in the field.
It's phenomenal.
It is. It's wild. But anyway, it pulls this information. It looks for potential issues, and it sends alerts to that client, to their service team via email. And so they had an individual who was responsible for sitting and monitoring that email inbox. And, out of the thousands of emails that they were getting hit with every week, they have to identify, like, what's the noise? Like, hey, this machine has fuel level low. Who cares? That's not something that a dealership needs to do a service call on. We don't take fuel out and fill up the things for them. So so they had to identify noise and remove the noise. And then they had to identify, okay, well, here is a device with an alert that I really care about. Where is it? And that information's in the email, but it would require them to go online, look up, the location, and then try to figure out which one of their branch dealership locations was the closest so that they could send that alert off to that service team to reach out to the client, take care of it, right? And so the problem that we were seeing were that some were just getting lost. There's concern of, okay, if they're on vacation, who handles it if they're on vacation? Who handles it if they're sick? They're emails, I mean, you think you've got inbox overload. Imagine handling your own email and then all of these alerts. And so there were just things falling through the crack. And that was, no fault of the individual who's in that role. It's just, it is what it is. And so they brought that issue up, and we started talking about ways to address it. And so on our side, we got sample emails. We, kind of looked at the alert information and went about the task of seeing, is there a way we can automate this? Is there a way that we can take the information that we have and, do routing? And we found that we could. We actually went in and developed some code, developed a software service, and that service receives those alerts within like 2 seconds. It's already filtered them out or taken them and figured out, not just looking at point A and point B on a map and going, well, that's a shorter line than that line. Let's send it there, but actually pulling routing information like turn-by-turn directions, figuring out if I was driving in a car, which one of these locations is closest. Just because it looks closest doesn't mean it's the shortest travel route. Anyone that lives in the mountains probably can attest to that. Can I get here from there? And and which location should I send it to? And so we do all that. We take those alerts and then we route it to the right team. And so now, I mean, the reality is those things are getting handled immediately. Some teams are now seeing alerts that they never received before just because of the way that this process worked in the past. And so, now they have more accurate information, more timely information, and they're looking at other ways to dive into additional revenue opportunities, which is key. If your IT partner doesn't understand revenue opportunities, there's your sign. Looking at ways they can leverage that information now. And so it's been a huge success. The individual now no longer has to worry about this part of their job. Usually the fear is, well, if you take this away from me, not that this was a fear of this person, but in the past, I've literally had people in this situation are like, what will I do? You're going to take this entire thing from me. Like, my job's at risk. And the reality is, if you're a rock star for an organization, you can take the mini, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, just the stuff
minuscule.
That really, say again?
Minuscule.
Yeah. We'll go with that. The unimportant task, the things that aren't like something that, you can excel at. The idea is this: you're a unique individual and there is amazing opportunity and potential within you. And if we can take something that we can automate and get it out of your way, then we can free you to actually do something that only you can do for our organization, where you can shine and at the end of the day, add value to the rest of your team, and more importantly, add value to our clients. And so the more that kind of stuff we can remove out of someone's way, more of that, I won't say menial. Is that the word? That
just
may not be a word.
Smaller time-consuming task is what I've found. Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, this person was freed up to fill some other roles that they had need of. And so that's one of the things that I feel like we're, on the strategic side, since we have the opportunity to do that and have that time dedicated to that, this surfaced. We talked about it, we identified it, figured out how to at least attempt to resolve it, and accomplished it. And again, kind of leaning back on, working with a provider like ourselves, we have people on staff and we also have partners that we can lean on for things like this, where, again, we've been at it 20 something years. We've got relationships, we've got knowledge, we've got experience. And this we actually knocked out in-house But we had the team members that could pull that off. And, so
thank you.
Something I'm proud of. And we're now like even, looking at bringing other manufacturers into that so that we can, take other alerts that the dealership is getting, bring them into that system so that we can apply the same capability to it. And then also adding a layer where they can actually log into into a web app so that they can actually see, okay, this alert went to company, to team X. What's the status of that? Have they looked at it? Has it been addressed? Getting some more accountability there, but something that would never have gotten doing it the manual way before. So
there's a lot of value in that story that you just shared. And for those that don't live in an ag world, this is the equipment and the machines that are building your houses and building your infrastructure for your subdivision. These are the machines that are building our airports, our road systems. These are the machines that are feeding America and the world. And so the technology and support that you're providing to these companies and these businesses, this is how we get food and clothes and roads and everything and homes that we get to live in. And it all starts with the equipment that you're supporting.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Corn, corn is grown across the country. There's a season of time and a window of time which you can harvest that corn. There are equipment pieces that these farmers have that they've invested a ton of money into. These things aren't cheap. And, so it's not like they have a spare or two spares sitting over in the barn or something. And so if one of these devices, well, it is a device, but if one of these machines, like a harvester, combine, if it's having an issue and that issue is getting relayed to your dealer, then, and some farmers love their dealers, some hate their dealers, but whatever, let's put that aside. But if your dealer, their service department can get this alert, how valuable is it for them to get that and be proactively reaching out to you to address it when, you may be, needing to go and start harvesting tomorrow with that combine and, and you can't control the weather. Right. And so what happens if you're down a day accidentally, and then the next thing you know, that following day, there's frost and there's snow and there's, and you can't, even if the tractor is back up and going, you can't use it. So, so it's important to be able to get that information to the dealer, but it's more important once the dealer gets it to actually make sure A, it gets seen, and B, that it doesn't get lost in the shuffle, that they actually do something with it. And so, yeah, I mean, missing an alert or two in this scenario could have a big issue for trickle down effect for the farmer, or as you said, construction company. I mean, we all hate sitting in traffic for road work, right? So, what if this is a critical piece of machinery that's out in the middle of the interstate and, it broke down, but we could have known about it. They could have known about it. Service team could have already been out there to take care of it. Just if the alerts had not gotten lost in an inbox, so.
That's a great story. Great analogy, bringing it home to everybody so we can all relate. So thank you for doing that. If someone listening wanted to take the next step with you, what should they do?
Sure. Well, always happy to talk with anyone that's interested. But I realize not everyone's there necessarily. Everyone approaches things differently, right? So first thing I would say, we have some free resources. So we, on rocketwise.com, if you go to our site, we actually have a resource center. It's actually resources.rocketwise.com if you just want to go directly to it. There we have articles that we publish every week to just help dealers in general just improve their technology. It's things that they can do, they can learn, they're educational in nature. We also have several free guides and a free book. And when I say free, I do mean free. There's no strings attached. that they can download immediately from our site that range from a variety of topics such as cybersecurity in the dealership or productivity in a dealership, et cetera. And so anyway, there are a variety of different resources there that we make available, and so I would recommend people at least check that out. Otherwise, on our site they can schedule a meeting with myself, and just have a 15-minute call or so to fill one another out and try to answer whatever questions they can, and hopefully help them identify if we're a right fit for them and if it's worth continuing to have a conversation. But that, we approach it from a no pressure perspective. We realize not everyone is built to be a client of ours. Not everyone is a fit for us, and we're not a fit for everybody. So, I guess if being a teenage boy growing up in high school taught me anything, it was to accept rejection in the dating life. And so I got accustomed to the word no and living with the word no. And so anyway, all that being said, we're not the right fit for everyone, and so sometimes it's no, and that's totally all right. Hopefully, we can at least point them in the direction to someone who can help them. So,
Kevin, you and your team have created a beautiful website, and if people are even just looking for website design ideas, I would encourage anybody to go out and take a look at your site. It is user friendly, it is clean, it is crisp, it has well laid out resources. You don't feel obligated that you need to purchase anything, but there's education out there, and the website is very nice. So we're going to close up, and Kevin Landers, you're the president of Rocketwise, found on the web at rocketwise.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate the time.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the episode. If you like it, please subscribe, share this episode or this show with other people around you. The greatest form of a compliment is a referral. I really appreciate them. And if you think that you want to learn more about some of the work we're doing, I encourage you to reach out to CatherineCantey.com. You can schedule a call or just continue to read articles and information that we post out there. Thank you so much for being here.